Hey y'all, hope you're doing good today. So, in today's message, I want to share some thoughts on the last chapter in this book, Fire in the Soul. Excuse me, I actually didn't cover chapter 12. But I just really encourage you to get the book if you have interest, because chapter 12 is just giving you some tips on well, she actually calls it 10 survival tips, practicalities of soul making, and just some really good advice to live by. But I really, really liked chapter 13, and so I want to focus on that to close out the review on this book. But let me just open by saying, when you have been dealing with a manipulative person or even several manipulative people in your life, it's so disorienting that you can they they basically bring you to the brink of losing your mind, unfortunately. And um and but on the flip side, you wind up strengthened. That's the silver lining of this whole situation. And so I just want to encourage you, on your walk, if you have been affected by somebody who essentially is like what the Bible describes, a wolf in sheep's clothing, because that's what these people are. It's not going to be something that is easy. It's not going to be something that you can flip a switch and you're coming out on the other side, in a month or two. If you've been dealing with these kind of people, even just one person, for many years, I don't want to sit here and say to you it's going to take, for sure, many, many years to come out of it. But I am going to say, be patient with yourself. That's so important. And I feel like, there's an old saying, anything that's worthwhile takes time. All good things take time, and it's true. And so I just encourage you to kind of, again, anytime you can, when you're journaling, or whether you're meditating, or whatever it is you're doing, that you're spending time just trying to work through this stuff, this hard stuff, when you're looking at yourself, introspection, when you're educating yourself on all these mental disorders, because that's what this stuff is, right? I would certainly not exclude evil from the equation by saying it's a mental disorder, because to me, anybody who is knowingly abusing someone, and again, psychological abuse is abuse. Anyone who's knowingly doing that, intentionally manipulating you and getting kicks out of it, or to benefit in any way, I can't see that any other way than to see it as evil, personally. But I think it's beneficial, really, that this stuff has all been detailed out. It's been studied and evaluated and researched and documented, and it's been defined. And when these things get defined within our culture, right, society, that gives us what's commonly referred to as facts now, right? So you can arm yourself with facts, and these will be beneficial to you in many, many ways. And I encourage you to do that. But just please know that this is your life. And I know you know that, but it's one of those things that's kind of like medicine to hear it, for the heart. This is your life. So to me, the biggest sadness, regret I could ever think of when thinking about coming to the end of our life is, excuse me, is to get there and to think, or to realize rather, how much time was spent on the wrong things and the wrong people. To me, that would be the greatest tragedy, because it would be a life. I don't know that I would say it would be a life wasted, because how do we know? Because we're always learning. but I feel like it would feel like a life wasted. And so that would be bad. That would be really hard to deal with. And so, we obviously we can't see the future, and all we can do really is to put one foot in front of the other at any stage in our life, right? But I just want to encourage you that, this is your life, and it's kind of like as you live it, I'm reminded again of, Jesus being referred to in the Bible as, the living Word. And we make up the body of Christ as Christians, right? As an example, I just want to give you a lens to look through, perception lens, right? So we are living out this story, right? Collectively, through our life. And so we're not powerless. You're not powerless. And I just want to remind you of that, because these manipulative people in your life can make you feel that way. And so let's go ahead and dive into this book. I'm not going to share a whole lot because the chapter itself is very short. And I love that because it's actually, you can tell that what she chose to put in this last chapter was very intentional. And so it's like few words, but big impact. You know what I mean? So pretty cool. And then we'll talk about it. So chapter 13 is called Night Lights. Night Lights. And she opens with a quote from Rumi. It says, "The breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. You must ask for what you really want. Don't go back to sleep. People are going back and forth across the door sill where the two worlds touch. The door is round and open. Don't go back to sleep." I thought that was really cool. First of all, it says you must ask for what you really want. Yeah, the Bible supports that, right? That's I'm most familiar with the Bible. I still hope, regardless of your religious or spiritual beliefs, you can find value in my message. But the Bible talks about, there's a verse that says, "You have not because you ask not." And also, whatsoever things you desire, when you pray, believe that you will have them and you shall have them. So, again, we're not powerless. We're not powerless. And I think that you could view this, what I just shared with you all, this, I don't know that it's really a poem, but whatever it is, this writing from Rumi, you could view this as, the threshold between faith and hope and hopelessness. Kind of like this, the doorway here that's being talked about. But we could also look at it as belief in yourself and in that inner guiding light, our intuition, versus laying that aside and being led by someone else, another human being, who is gaslighting you and trying to script your reality, literally. Again, I've given you all the example. There's so many ways they do this, but one way is just to be right there with you, looking at the same thing, and they're narrating what's happening to you like you're not even able to witness it for yourself. It's a way to invalidate your existence, is what it is. And it's been on my heart to just talk about, and I didn't want to do it in this video, but it is on my heart to talk about this spirit, really, that's underlying it, because the more clear it gets for me, the more I see this spirit underlying the drive behind these people, these manipulative people. I see it as jealousy. And that comes straight from the devil, truly. Because, think about it. In the Bible, it's talked about how, he rebelled. Satan rebelled from God because he was jealous of God's authority and place and power, right? So he rebelled out of envy and jealousy and greed. And see, that spirit right there is what we're dealing with. And these manipulative people, they want to tear us down, I believe, because they're so envious of us. And I know that's weird, because you're thinking, why would anybody be jealous of me? That's what I think. Like, we're so many amazing people out there. Why me? But I don't know. I think maybe it's just the fact that you have any confidence in yourself at all, and because of that, you're able to actually be proactive in your life and make good things happen. Because, again, faith without works is dead. You have to actually, be somewhat motivated to make things happen in your life. And there are people that are just stuck in a victimhood mentality, and it's very sad, but you can't do it for them. I mean, you can, but that's going to be, spinning your wheels in your life, and they're never going to take what you give them and run with it. They're just going to, as long as you're giving, they're going to be taking, so that spark has to come from within them, right? But to me, proof that this spirit behind the manipulative people is actually envy and jealousy, the proof is the fact that they, like 9 times out of 10 or more, they, you see them start to kind of transform into you, and it's strange. It's strange. If you just sit back and you think about it, I'm sure you can think of, even if you weren't super close with certain people, I'm sure all of us can think of, some people that just, we felt some bad vibes. It was just, the energy was off and irritating to our spirit. And maybe we just hung around longer than we should have because we just felt like, we should, or maybe it was in a workplace or whatever reason it is. But I'm sure you can think of certain ones, and if you just really think about details, see if you can remember, because I can. Very specific things where they start dressing like you. They may even go and get an extreme makeover where their hairstyle is suddenly changed into yours, and they suddenly like the things that you like, or you may even have things go missing, and then they can wind up having things that went missing for you, a while back, and it's really bizarre. And I don't really know any other word that's more fitting than that. It's just truly bizarre. But it's almost like, I don't know if this is from like an old cartoon from when I was a kid, or an old like country western movie or what, but I'm thinking of this saying. This came to me earlier when I was starting to pull my message together in my mind. But and please comment if you know where this is from. But there's this old saying that says something like, there's no room in town for the both of us, or there's only room in town for one of us. It's kind of like that. That's kind of like the mentality they have. It's like they don't think, it's really the mindset of lack. Like they don't think that you can both succeed. They're viewing everything in black and white terms, either or. Either you're going to excel and they're not going to, or they're going to excel and they're going to put you down because that's the only way they think they can excel. It's just strange. It's like they don't think there's enough goodness or good fortune or good happenings or whatever enough to go around for everybody. They think that it's limited. It's a limited mindset. It's a lack mindset. But anyway, I don't even know. I went way off on a tangent there. But when you are, going back to this quote from Rumi here, when you are affected for a long time by these manipulative people, you start to believe their projections. You start to believe that maybe you don't know what you're saying or doing. Maybe you're just a really confused person. And they can create such self-doubt in you that it starts to affect your actual cognitive processes in your mind. If you take their projections in and plant those seeds in your heart, because you're so trusting of this person, it can affect your mind to that degree. And so when I read this, I thought, when it says don't go back to sleep, don't go back to sleep. People are going back and forth across the door sill where the two worlds touch. What are the two worlds here? It's the world of being alert and alive, what the Bible calls like alive versus spiritually dead. It's like that door sill of being a zombie versus being sure-footed and steadfast and grounded and rooted in what you know to be true. It's not egoic. It's that higher knowing. You're just sure in that way. You're standing on that foundation. You know what I mean? Versus just basically being a martyr unto mental and spiritual death. There's no honor in that. There's no honor in that. When God has shown you, when God has brought the light to a dark situation, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to look. You want to turn away, but don't go back to sleep. I just encourage you. So let me share a little bit that she wrote here underneath this quote. She says, "But we do go back to sleep. For a while, we peer through the doorway between the worlds and see the light behind the shadows. Then the doorway seems to close and we fall back into our ruminations. Was the love and peace we felt a dream? Or is suffering itself a dream? The nature of life is flow and change. We wake up for a while and remember the soul stories that urge us on to freedom. Then we fall asleep again and forget. This chapter consists of little stories, prayers, and quotes, touchstones of light that can help us stay awake." And she really does it justice. She's got some really powerful quotes in here, so I'm going to share a few with you all. The first couple I want to share are kind of similar in nature. The first one is from, and I'm not sure who this is, Richard Bach, B-A-C-H, says, "When we come to the last moment of this lifetime and we look back across it, the only thing that's going to matter is, what was the quality of our love? What was the quality of our love?" And I wrote, this is what holds us back from stepping away from a toxic situation or person, right? Our love is weaponized against us. We don't want to withhold it. In fact, the Bible tells us not to. It says, turn the other cheek. And it says also that we're supposed to love our enemies. And that right there, all that is weaponized against us. And it's going to get so hard that it literally says, I'll have to find the verse and put it in the description, but we will reap a harvest if we faint not. There will be something good that comes from our willingness to stand, to just stand, okay, and not faint. That's really what we're called to do, to stand. It's like we're soldiers, not so much to fight, but to withstand, right? And so, yeah, I've had these dreams before where literally I was just, it reminds me of like the Matrix. Like I was just standing there and I just felt the power of this evil energy, like this wind. And it shook me to my core, and yet I was able to withstand it, and in that way I was victorious. But it's kind of like we're tested, and these people, that's what they do. They push us and push us and push us and push us to see how much we'll take. And love, again, it bears all things, right? And we live that out. We make that true. And sometimes it can push us to the brink of death, or insanity, or insanity. It's crazy. So the second quote is from Rumi again. It says, "Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there." And I thought that was really peaceful. And so my note says, yeah, this is our intention, to kind of look beyond. We want so bad to, even when we start to see a person's dysfunction, and start to identify the mental illness in somebody and the evil in a person. And I'm not saying all mental illness is evil. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying when I'm talking about wolves in sheep's clothing, people who are intentionally exploiting others, to me that's evil. But when we start to identify this stuff, we want so bad to be able to both protect ourselves and also not give up on this person. The spirit of love within us doesn't want to give up on these people. And so we want to try and look beyond all of this and meet them spiritually, energetically in this field of neutrality, But what happens is we're trying to come to this place of peace, and they don't want that. They're constantly creating chaos and creating friction, and the results sometimes in our life can be devastating. They can bring devastation to other people in our life, relationships in our life. They can triangulate us, where they can, in other words, as a quick example, you can look all into triangulation. There's tons of videos on it out there, but as a very quick example, you could just be normal, and they can react to you like you were just extremely hurtful and awful in front of another person. And if the other person, maybe their mind was somewhere else and they didn't really catch what was going on or see what you said or whatever, if they see this person reacting like that to you enough, then they may perceive you as a cruel person because, gosh, you're hurting this person's feelings all the time. They didn't really see what happened, but man, see. And all they know of this person is the mask this person wears. They don't know everything that you've been through with this person, see. So they can paint this picture in front of other people that you have a mean spirit, or that you're selfish, or that you're whatever, and it's not true. So you can be trying, my point is to meet these people, to look beyond all of this and try to tolerate, right, in the spirit of love, and meet them in a place energetically of peace, and they're just not going to do it. So, we come to a point where we're like, what do we do? What do we do? And so let me share this other quote in that spirit. This is from Coventry Patmore, and I looked up who this person was. Apparently he was an English poet, I believe, British poet. It says, "To one who waits, all things reveal themselves, so long as you have the courage not to deny in the darkness what you have seen in the light." Yes. So when the light illuminates what's going on for us, right? It's important that we don't continue to play along. And they say the only way not to play these people's games of manipulations is to not play. The only way to win, rather, is to not play. Okay? Let me just give you some other things to think about. Let's say, again, it's a situation where you can't walk away, or maybe it's again, it could be the workplace or family or whatever, but you're like, how can I make this work? How can I gray rock? How can I, withstand, right? Let's look at in this from being inspired from that quote there from Coventry Patmore, where it says the courage to deny, right? As long as you have the courage not to deny in the darkness what you have seen in the light. Let's look at what it means to deny. Okay, we know that the opposite of deny means to confirm or accept, and sometimes silence can kind of be a form of accepting or confirming something. So we don't really want to be silent all the time. Maybe in some circumstances, it depends. Context is critical, but let's define deny. Okay, from the Online Etymology Dictionary from the early 14th century, it means declare to be untrue or untenable. All right, so how do we have the courage to deny what someone's trying to put forth as a falsified reality to paint you a certain way, for example? How do we deny this without causing friction? Right? In other words, how do we don't want to respond defensively, right? So if we don't want to do that, how are we supposed to respond? Okay, let's look at the word defense. Because when you think about being defensive, it doesn't feel right, So from the 1300s, defense means action of guarding or shielding from attack or injury, Also, it means act of defending by fighting, which we don't want to do, as well as a fortified place of refuge. That sounds nice, right? Yes. So the Latin word is defensus, right? To ward off and protect. So the heart of defending oneself, to me, is not to engage with friction or to fight, but to protect yourself, right? The Bible talks about this. So to protect is to cover or shield from danger, harm, damage, exposure, trespass, temptation, insult, etc. Right? So to protect yourself is really critical. And we have pro, meaning before, and tegere, to cover before. So you're basically armoring up, okay, as you head into this world, and especially as you head into the proximity of a manipulative person, right? You want to cover yourself energetically, mindfully, intentionally, before entering that space, okay? So that's what we're talking about is armor. Specifically putting armor in action. What does that mean? So we could operate by trying to explain ourselves to these wolves, right? Or to others in front of the wolves after they've tried to twist everything and make us look a certain way or whatever. We could try just doing that. But again, that's kind of like getting in the mud. You know, you're just kind of spinning your wheels, possibly making things worse because you don't know what they've said, what kind of lies they've told to other people. And also this is going to exhaust you, right? And you can't foresee all of their tactics. I feel like it's impossible because when you don't have the motivation in your heart and mind like these people do of the spirit of jealousy and having the motivation to just constantly tear somebody down, how can you possibly think the way they do? You can't. You can try to, but you just can't because you're really not in their shoes, spiritually and energetically. And mentally, and that's a good thing. So what do? I just want to share some thoughts with you all, some tips, some of my tips on how to stay positive and strong through all this, okay? I would say we can start by not going back to sleep, not turning away, by having the courage, right, to see what the light revealed to us, okay? See the darkness for what it is, essentially. See the evil for what it is. We can acknowledge that we are social creatures and we are meant to have support. We're meant to. A lot of times these people isolate us because they'll tell us awful things about people that we know. This has happened multiple times in my life from different people. And you find out later that what they're doing, you find out that they're trying to drive wedges between you and everyone you know. They're trying to isolate you, right? You're an easier target that way, right? They can bring you down a lot easier that way when you don't have support. But we are social creatures. We are meant to have community with one another. So just keep that in mind, right? We can educate ourselves, right, on what we're dealing with. We can learn all about cluster B personality disorders, okay, for example. We can ask ourselves how much abuse we're willing to be subjected to. I mean, really, that's what it is. When it's intentional and it's a pattern and it's causing there's a bad effect from being around a person, then there's some kind of abuse happening on your mind and spirit, right? On that level, and you just have to at some point draw the line and say, you know, where's my tolerance level, you know. We need to ask ourselves, what are the long-term effects of living under this constant stress and pressure? Because manipulative spirits, they use, again, creating chaos, they use stress and pressure as tactics to persuade you to go along with what they think or to live life on their terms or whatever it is, okay? We need to think about the long-term effects of those things on us, because they do impact us in a lot of ways. We need to consciously, on purpose, remind ourselves who and what we want to be bonded with in this life. What values matter to us? What people truly matter to us? And they need to become priorities and non-negotiables in our life, right? Okay. Yeah, in other words, we need to understand what's at risk, okay? Because if we don't consider the risk of our trying with all our might to keep this connection hanging on by a thread, if we don't understand there's huge risk in doing that, then the longer we engage with this relationship or this connection, we risk it leaving a huge mark on our future, on the most beautiful aspects of our life. So it's important. This is really important, and we need to pause and consider that. Another different way to look at things is this: instead of trying to cut off the spirit of love from this person, because that doesn't feel natural, again, especially if you have that's part of your values, your spiritual beliefs, that we're supposed to love everyone, right? Consider just reprioritizing everything in your life, like what I was talking about. Remembering what it is and who it is we truly want to remain true to in our life. What matters the most. And use that as inspiration. Now we're shifting our focus onto something positive. And yet, by doing so, we're going to be giving less and less and less energy to this person and all their tactics, just by simply shifting our focus on to what really matters. Okay? I feel like the biggest thing lost in all these years with these people is just time, really. If you think about it, we're spinning our wheels and wasting time when we're engaging and trying to defend ourselves, and also when we get away from the situation and then we ruminate on it. What else could we have been using that time for? or who else could we have been spending that time with? You know what I mean? Because our days are numbered. Our days are numbered in this human life, in this existence, right? So, reprioritizing everything is really, and recommitting in that way is very important. Yes. So, because one day it'll be too late. And two, I just want to encourage you and remind you, don't forget to prioritize things like sleep and nutrition and exercise, because these actually greatly impact the quality of our lives, right? So just a little reminder there. Really, really important. Now, if you think about it, if we were to know somehow, magically, the date of our last day here on earth, okay, we'd probably all be in a race, right? A race against what? Against time, to do what matters most. So my question is, why wait? Why wait? So again, I just encourage you to consider starting. You may be. I've found myself here several times. It's kind of like you're on this journey of learning and growing and healing, and you can sometimes just wind up making a big circle, right back to not really where you started, but close. And it's kind of like you understand that healing from all this stuff isn't just a straight path, but yet it's and you're patient with it, but you still kind of feel stuck. So I just encourage you to consider shifting your focus. Like what would happen? Because they say where our attention goes, energy flows, right? So we could try that out and see what happens, okay? Because technically, if we do that, then the good stuff should get bigger and the bad stuff should get smaller. So I hope you were encouraged by the message, and I have more notes. So let me read those real quick. Yes. So if we do that, truly, we shift our focus. I understand it's if you're not able to cut this person out of your life, it's or you don't want to for whatever reason. Even if you shift your focus, it doesn't just magically make all of the friction and problems go away. because they're on a mission. They're on a mission, like Jesus says in the Bible, from their father, right? The devil. They're on a mission. Again, the spirit is to kill, steal, and destroy. And you experience that stuff in your life when you're around these people. But that's just it when you're around these people. See? So maybe we should, reprioritize. So when the abuse pops up, let's say you do this. Let's say you do shift your focus, okay? When the abuse pops up, which when I say abuse, I mean like manipulation tactics, right? Then we can remember it's a mental illness. It's a mental illness, right? Because I think sometimes when we remember or we think of, evil, it's kind of like that magnifies the situation on their part and we start to feel small. So maybe reframe that instead of saying, oh, there's evil at work, because that feels energetically powerful. You know what I mean? Like spiritually in the battle sense, right? But if you label it, if you're triggered from this person, to remember something instead of calling it evil, because I feel like energetically maybe that's pouring energy and attention into that, right? And it makes it seem bigger than what it is. You want to stay energetically in a place of victory. So maybe just say, oh yeah, it's a mental illness, right? And because that's workable. You know what I mean? That's more like on the logical as far as this material physical realm. You know what I mean? It's workable. It doesn't feel overwhelming. So just maybe try that. And let me say this too. Anyone who can be influenced and swayed against you, maybe they weren't supposed to be in your life anyways. Maybe just trust. Maybe trust that God actually is working all things for your good. Okay? The only exception with that would be children, because they can be influenced. But again, you do have tools, and one of the greatest tools would be a community of support. And I just encourage you to look into that. As anytime there's a situation that's like that where children are involved, or it's not something where you can say, well, maybe that person wasn't meant to be in my life anyway. If it's just kind of something a little sensitive, again, you're not the only one going through this stuff. It's just that I think this stuff feels so powerful. It kind of we all go through these stages of shock and dismay, but again, the Bible says, do not be dismayed, for I am your God. Okay? Nothing is bigger than your God. Okay? And so he can do it. You know what I mean? Just remember that, and be encouraged, and just try to shift your focus and your attention. That's what I'm going to do. So thank you so much for coming along to hear the message. I hope you have a beautiful day. I'm still going to try to make shorter videos. And I just thank you so much. I'd love to hear from you if you have any thoughts in the comment section. So thanks again, and I will see you again very soon.